The stadium-like silence of the elite shooters club buzzed with anticipation. Spectators leaned forward, breath caught in their throats. All that remained between Emma Miller and one of the most improbable victories in the club's history was a single shot. She stood behind the Macmillan TC-338, a sniper rifle known for humbling even experienced marksmen. Across the range, 75 yards away, the final target waited, its bullseye no bigger than a quarter. Blake Radcliffe had just walked away with 9 of 10 shots in the inner ring. Impressive, but not perfect. Emma breathed in, slow and measured. A faint flicker of light danced across the scope, deliberate sabotage. Someone from Blake's entourage had angled a reflective watch or mirror just enough to cause a distraction. For a split second, her vision blurred. She didn't flinch. Instead, she calmly reached up, adjusted the scope, and repositioned her cheek on the stock. In her mind, Nathan's voice rose above the chaos. When they rattle you, slow everything down. Control is your weapon. They can't take that from you. She wrapped her hand around the grip, felt the cold steel steady beneath her skin, twisted her wedding ring with her thumb, once, like a trigger, and exhaled halfway. Then, crack. The echo cut through the stillness like a thunderclap. The recoil surged against her shoulder. The bullet tore through the silence, slicing the air like a razor. All eyes turned to the target as the automatic pulley reeled it back. Mechanical whirring. Click, click, click. The target stopped dead center before the crowd. One clean hole. Perfectly centered. A bullseye so precise it nearly vanished into the printed ring. For a heartbeat, no one moved. Then, a roar erupted through the range. Applause, gasps, even the range officers rose to their feet. The impossible had just been made real. Emma Miller, the quiet woman in off-brand jeans and calm eyes, had just outshot a national champion on his home turf with his chosen weapon, even after he'd tried to sabotage her. Blake stood frozen, lips parted, pride shattered. Emma? She just stepped back, placed the rifle down gently, turned toward him, and said, clear enough for the cameras, the crowd, and his legacy to hear. You underestimated the wrong woman. The silence that followed her final words hit harder than the shot itself. Blake Radcliffe's face was a mask, still, pale, cracking. His hand twitched by his side, the reflex of a man so used to control that even gravity felt like betrayal. He stepped forward, voice strained and thin. That shot, the light was off. The scope was rigged. He was scrambling. Desperate. The crowd, once filled with admirers, now stared with cautious skepticism. Rebecca Johnson didn't hesitate. She walked forward with quiet authority, tablet in hand. Mr. Radcliffe, she said firmly, her voice calm but cutting, the club's internal surveillance caught your technician adjusting the optics on that rifle. We reviewed it twice before the final shot. The tampering worked against Miss Miller. Gasps spread like wildfire. Blake blinked, stunned. That's not possible. It's my gear. My man wouldn't. Rebecca turned the screen toward him. The video played. A time-stamped clip, crisp and clear, Blake's technician slipping a tool from his vest, loosening the scope, calibrating it just slightly out of alignment. The evidence was undeniable. She corrected your sabotage, Rebecca continued, her voice edged with cold fire, and still outshot you. A woman in the third row stood. Then another. Then a group of veterans, stern-faced, arms crossed, rose from the back of the range. Among them was Michael Reeves, his expression unreadable but resolute. Emma didn't gloat. She didn't flinch. She just turned to the crowd and spoke plainly. He bet $50,000 that I couldn't make that shot. The wager was for the Veterans Support Foundation. I expect the promise to be honored. Blake turned crimson. His jaw flexed as if chewing on broken pride. You think this means anything? He snarled. A one-day wonder? Some widow with a lucky hand? This place was built by men like me. Men who compete. Who win. No, Emma said softly. It was built by people like him. She reached into her bag and pulled out Nathan's logbook, open to a weathered page covered in his handwriting. She held it up for all to see, the name Nathan Ghost Miller signed at the bottom, with a line scrawled across the margin. Emma, better hands than me. If she shoots, listen. The room fell deathly quiet. No one needed further proof. The ghost wasn't just legend, he'd passed the torch. Blake's knees seemed to buckle slightly. The fight had left him, replaced by something he couldn't understand, reverence and fear. Security approached, not for Emma, but for him. Mr. Radcliffe, one officer said, holding up a warrant. You're being investigated for evidence tampering and violation of competition integrity. Blake turned to Rebecca. You do this to me? Rebecca held his gaze. You did it to yourself. He was escorted out, his legacy unraveling with every step. Emma stood alone by the firing station, the lights above casting her in a soft, resolute glow. She picked up the shell casing from her final shot and placed it in her coat pocket, not as a trophy, but as a symbol, a memory. Michael approached her. Quiet. Proud. He'll never forget your name, he said. Neither will they. Emma nodded, eyes glassy. I didn't do it for him to remember. I did it so Nathan wouldn't be forgotten. 2 hours after Blake Radcliffe was led out of the elite shooters club in handcuffs, the headlines were already spreading like wildfire. Olympic champion accused of sabotage in high-stakes duel. Unknown widow outscores champion in historic shooting match. Veteran's legacy lives on through wife's stunning victory. Emma Miller didn't read a single one. She sat alone in her apartment, Nathan's logbook resting on her lap, the final shell casing placed gently inside the front cover. Her phone buzzed every few minutes, calls from journalists, offers from sponsors, and even a morning talk show producer. She ignored them all, until one message appeared from an unknown number. You made us proud today. Reeves and the Ghosts. She smiled for the first time in days. The next morning, Emma met with Colonel James Harrison, a retired Marine and director of the Veterans Support Foundation. We've never had this much visibility, he admitted, sliding a printed donation receipt across the table. Blake Radcliffe's legal team wired $100,000 this morning. Double the wager. Emma studied the paper, silent for a long time. Do you think they'll erase what he did? She asked. Some will try, Harrison said. But the world saw the truth. Not just the cheating, your truth. He stood, walking toward a wall lined with military photos and honor plaques. There's something we'd like to ask of you, he added. We're starting a new marksmanship training program for combat veterans, those struggling to find purpose again. We'd like you to lead it. Emma blinked. I'm not a soldier. I've never even worn a uniform. No, Harrison said, but you carry one inside you. And you have something more valuable than rank perspective. Emma looked down at her hands. They had once only typed numbers, balanced spreadsheets, filed quarterly returns. But now, they had done something else. They had spoken. 3 months later, a refurbished facility opened its doors just outside of Boston. Its plaque read, the Nathan Ghost Miller Center for Marksmanship and Reintegration. And beneath it, directed by Emma Miller, instructor, civilian, widow, warrior. Emma stood before her first class, 6 veterans, each carrying invisible scars. PTSD, isolation, rage, silence. All of them unsure if this was just another program. I'm not here to teach you how to shoot, Emma began, voice steady. I'm here to help you remember who you were before you stopped believing in yourself. She raised a Glock 19, held it at her side. The world will underestimate you. Let it. That's your advantage. She stepped back and gestured to the range. Now show me who you are. Meanwhile, Blake Radcliffe's world collapsed. His suspension from the elite shooters club became permanent. His sponsors dropped him. Investigations into past competitions began to surface discrepancies. His name, once synonymous with excellence, became a cautionary tale about pride, arrogance, and the fatal mistake of judging someone by their shoes. Blake issued a public apology, written with legal polish, but devoid of soul. Behind closed doors, he struggled to rebuild, not his reputation, but his understanding of what he'd become, and what he could never be again. 6 months later, Emma was invited to speak at the Foundation's annual gala. She wore a black dress. No medals. No uniform. Just the quiet dignity of someone who had nothing left to prove. She stood behind the podium, took a breath, and began. A year ago, I walked into a shooting range because someone I loved asked me to keep a promise. I didn't walk in to prove anything. But life has a strange way of revealing what we carry when we stop trying to hide. She paused, looking into the sea of veterans, civilians, and service families. My husband, Master Chief Nathan Miller, taught me how to breathe, how to aim, how to trust. But more importantly, he taught me how to endure. And if I've learned anything in this journey, it's that the most dangerous people are not always the loudest. They're the quiet ones, the ones who've survived storms no one saw, the ones who stand up when everyone else sits down. Applause began to build. Then Harrison returned to the stage with a plaque. The board of the Veterans Support Foundation would like to honor Emma Miller with the inaugural Nathan Ghost Miller Award for Excellence and Integrity in Marksmanship and Service. The room rose in standing ovation. Emma stepped forward, accepted the plaque, and whispered under her breath, "We did it, Nathan." Later that night, she returned home and sat alone on her balcony, the wind gently pulling at the pages of the logbook resting on her lap. She stared up at the stars. No fanfare, no music, just the silence her husband once taught her to treasure. Because in that silence, there was strength, there was peace, and finally, there was home.